Hello, hello, everybody. Thank you so much for waiting for us. We have a little bit of an echo issue. Nancy Jean, can you mute, please? Okay, great. There shouldn't be an echo now. Ladies, is there an echo? No. All right, we were having a little bit of an echo problem. So what we're going to do with that is I'm going to let you all know what's going on. I'm going to have these wonderful ladies introduce themselves. And we're just going to have to mute while the other person is talking, or else there's an echo. And I guess this has been going on with StreamYard all week. Is that right, Shari? Yeah. So apologize that we can't all talk at once because we love to do that, don't we? We do. So, all right. So I'm Sabrina. This is Tree of Life Inner Guidance. Thank you so much for coming on. Hello to everybody in the chat. And I am going to let the ladies introduce themselves, and then I'm going to talk about what we're going to do tonight. And this should be fun, and it should also be a learning experience for everyone. So I'm going to turn the mic over to Shari. She's going to tell us a little bit about herself. If you have a show coming up in the next day or two, let us know, but we don't need the full rundown for the next 2 weeks. So Shari, go right ahead.
Hi, I'm Shari, Voices from the Swamp. I think a lot of y'all know me, but if you don't, I do readings, political, personal. I don't do astrology because I don't understand astrology, but that's what I got Sabrina for, or Colleen for. She knows it too, and they both give a really great astrological chart readings. I've had one done by both of them, and they're just top of the scale. So, as far as me, I'm going to be on Colleen's show tomorrow night for polyterology. And then Saturday morning, I'm doing a Lionsgate 8/8 show with Nate. And then I've got Jeffrey, formerly Ripe Color, and now the Shape of Light, I think it's called. Okay. We're going to be doing a live tomorrow afternoon. And then I'm going out with my son because my Julian is going to be in town to play tomorrow night. So it's Saturday night, I should say. So no slumber party Saturday night. It's because Mama's going out. So and that's it. NancyJean.
All right. Thank you. Nancy Jean, you're on.
Okay. Hi. I started out as a tarot reader. I wandered into crystals. I do a whole lot of everything. I've studied astrology just well enough to know that I don't do charts. I can understand them, but I don't draw them. Um, I teach tarot. And speaking of dear sweet Jeffrey from Shape of Light, he and I are starting another class. I'm taking a survey right now. What day is best for people in afternoons or evenings? And I'm starting a book club about some books about what we do, and that can, by reading these fictional accounts, how it can enlighten us. So if you're interested in any of that, you need to over to either go to my channel and you can find the links to get there, or crystaldirections.com is my website, and that's where you can find out all the good stuff I do. I only do politics on Sundays because I want to have a soul left when I leave this life. And I used to be a political consultant, so I know wherever I speak. And I do that on Sunday mornings with Scott. So if you come over and join my channel, you'll get notices about all this great stuff. Okay, Colleen?
Hey, Colleen.
Okay, hi, I'm Colleen Pearl, aka The Cool Crone. My channel is called The Cool Crone. My website is thecoolcrone.com. I'm as Shari said, we're doing a show, polyterology, tomorrow night at 7:30 Eastern with my sister Cleo and Shari. And I thought Mel was going to be with us, but I don't think so, right, Shari? He's doing something. Okay. So I didn't know that when I started writing up
He's
the
got a
stuff.
wedding to attend.
Yeah,
His
I
niece.
read that. I read that in his thing, and I was like, oh, I guess he's not making the show. However, polyterology is a show that I invented, and it is just the the bringing together of different divinations to talk about politics. So astrology, tarot, mediumship, pendulums, numerology, the I Ching, whatever the hell you want. You just put it all together, and it helps you understand what's going on with those amazing people in Washington. Okay. And in other places. We have them in all of our states. Saturday, I'm going to be on Val's channel, the Disclosure channel. We're going to continue our discussion about what astrology is happening now through the end of the year. And that's also going to be at 7:30. And I have memberships in my website, and come and meet me. Thank you. Thanks. And thank you very much, Sabrina, for having me on this. This sounds like it's going to be a really fun show.
All right. Well, thank you, Colleen. Thank you, everyone. And okay, so I'm Sabrina, and thank you, ladies, for joining me tonight. I kind of started this show as something a little bit different. It's kind of a spin off of Words with Friends, only I called it Cards with Friends. So I forget what we did the first show, and then we did our favorite decks. And then tonight, what we're doing, we've all picked out a card or cards because none of us can manage to ever pick just one card for anything, anytime. So we're going to show you one card with 3 different decks. I have everybody's cards also here, so I'm going to be holding up the Rider Waite deck. Did anybody use Rider Waite as a deck? No? Okay. So I have the Rider Waite deck, which is the pretty much the original tarot deck. And I will be holding that up so you can see. I learned on Rider Waite and Hanson Roberts. So, oh, I didn't tell you about me. So, anyway, I'm Sabrina, Tree of Life Inner Guidance. My YouTube channel is Sabrina, Tree of Life Inner Guidance. My website is Tree of Life Inner Guidance. I am in a torture chamber. This is my pay for a job. I'm a Pilates instructor, personal trainer. As far as the woo-woo voodoo goes, I started studying astrology about 40 years ago, tarot, made my own runes. I've always kind of messed with it, but the last couple years I kind of got more serious about it. And I started doing broadcasts on Facebook when we had the faithful 2024 election because I was trying to talk all my friends from jumping off the ledge. And then I decided to do YouTube, and it's turned into mostly astrology and some other stuff. I do a lot of pre-recorded videos on new moons, full moons, like right now, the eclipses, Lionsgate. I've done a couple of videos for Nath as part of his eclipse path. I do politics. I just don't do them on my channel because I can get a little heated about politics. But I do some politics. I do a lot of stuff with Judy's Healing Fire. I'll be on her channel Sunday. So anyway, back to what we're doing tonight. So I will have the Rider Waite deck here for everybody's cards. They are going to show you the card they picked. And what our conversation is about is that so many tarot decks have such different imagery that it actually can change the meanings of the cards. So, and I would wager a guess saying that most readers are very intuitive. So they're going to use a deck that they feel is going to work with whatever they're doing, whoever they're reading for. And that imagery is going to change and alter the meaning of the cards sometimes depending on the reading, the situation. So we're just going to give you examples like that in case some of you are like, well, you know, that's the temperance card and somebody else said it meant this, that, or the other thing, or the star card, which I love, which, you know, I know a reader and I know you all know him. He says it's the narcissist card. And that's how he reads it because the person's always looking in the pool at themselves. So the imagery can actually really change the meanings and the whole entire flavor of the card and literally the entire deck. So we're going to give you examples of that. And if any ladies, if you any of you have something to say, just unmute and jump right in. But we had an echo problem tonight, and this is how it has been solved. So I am going to turn over to Shari right now, and I'm going to hold her cup up, a card up, while she talks about it, shows her decks and what meanings she gets and how the meaning changes from each card deck. Okay, are you ready, Shari? All right, you're.
All right, I had the Knight of Cups. Um, One of the first cards I pulled from was from the Tarot Illuminati, where the Knight is known as the Prince of Cups here. And it's in this particular deck, the Prince of Cups or the Knight of Cups is seen as the savior and grail seeker. And so this is that very chivalrous King Arthur and the Round Table and searching for the Grail and all that kind of stuff. A lot of uh, connections to how the old bards used to do with singing and singing to your love and doing all that kind of good stuff. But a lot of it is geared more towards the Arthurian tales and mythology. And so, and I just like the deck and I like the artwork. And I thought, well, that's really cool. Let's see if it'll actually, I got to put my face behind it. That's what it is. There we go. There we go. Now you can see it. Anyway, so that was the one I started out with. And then I went with the Light Seers. And, you know, here, just a cowboy with a bunch of roses in his lap. And it wasn't until I actually, somebody had given me the book on the Light Seers, which goes into like really in depth for each card. And the way they were talking about it with this one is like poems check, wine check, strawberries check, flowers check. So it's like somebody who is in love with love or in love with being in love. And so they've checked off all their boxes to make it romantic and blah, blah, blah. But it's not really a feeling in depth of courting that kind of love. It's more like somebody who's in love with the idea of falling in love, and then they've got their little list and they got to check everything off to make sure they get it. And then whoever it is that's receiving that attention should be able to just jump right to it. And it doesn't always work like that. And then I couldn't decide on these last two. One is from my Christmas deck, which looks like just a little elf on a rocking horse, which I thought was adorable. And the other one is from my Deviant Moon deck. And that was just kind of weird. I just liked the way it looked. So with the Christmas deck, it's more of a graceful, not a warlike, riding quietly, just kind of the general kind of just a knight trucking through the night, trucking through the night, right? Just doing his thing, and he's not rocking anything. He's taking his time. And then with the Deviant Moon, this one's supposed to symbolize a gift of hope, and that his magnificent armor now has that green patina stain because the journey has been long, the battles have been hard, and he is just looking for a place to end his journey with someone. And so I thought that was kind of, I mean, they all kind of basically the same outline, you know, the knight in shining armor. That's what we tend to think of the Knight of Cups. But they all have very kind of different variations on that theme that I just really thought was interesting. And that's why I picked it. I'm a big romantic myself. So, you know, but I'm also a pragmatist. Go figure that one out. I'm a Gemini. What can I say? And So that's why I went with those two. All right.
All right. So I just have a couple of funny things to show you. Um, so this deck right here, and I have all four of her decks because I love her artwork. This is the Tarot of Light. This is the artwork is by Tony Carmine Salerno, and all the artwork is very similar, but the Knight of Cups is shown here as the Knight of Hearts. In this deck, Cups are Hearts, and this is all about romance. So that's all that this card shows. But, and then this crazy deck, because, you know, you never have enough tarot decks. That's this one right here. And this one made me laugh out loud because it uses the suit of cups. It calls it elixirs. And this is the Knight of Cups. And look what it has here for the Knight of Cups: fertility tonic. I just think that's so funny. Fertility tonic. And then, because this is the only card in my tarot deck that I have done that we're doing tonight is the Knight of Cups, I'm going to show it to you. So we have the beautiful white horse that you always see with the Knight of Cups. That cup right there is actually my glass of champagne, and that is one of the carriage horses in New Orleans. The background, I think, is New Orleans, and down here you can see that knight. Those are all along the streets in parking. So, and look, he has a little heart on his halter. I don't know if you can see that. And then the knight actually has the fleur de lis right there as the hinge on his face. And then these cards have the meaning, and this says invitation, romance, proposals, and dreams. And so, you know, this is all about romance and somebody asking you out on a hot date. And it's not always portrayed that way, although fertility tonic is pretty obvious. I think that's hysterical. So, anyway, that was my 2 cents about the Knight of Cups. So I'm going to turn this. Ladies, do you have any other commentary on the Knight of Cups? No? All right, good. So, NancyJean, you're on.
Hi, I'm going to switch you over to my table because it's easier to see things when they're flat like that. And the card I picked is the Four of Cups, and y'all are going, what's so good about the Four of Cups? This is the reason I picked it. This is called the Luna Soul deck. And if you see this, Four of Coins. And if you see this little guy, he's holding the 4 coins. But if you look, there's a locked door ahead of him. And in front of that locked door is the key. And the only way he can get down, get the key, and move forward is he has to let go of something. And I actually, when I saw that card, I went looking for that deck. At that time, the deck was out of print. It has been reprinted. You can get it now. But that just so intrigued me that I got several other cards. And there's other cards from that deck that are also really important to me. But then the other deck I got that's totally different kind of imagery is the Four of Pentacles, Holding Tight Avenue. And this is from a deck called Life is Like a Board Game. And the imagery is all from the Monopoly game. And if you want to have a deck that has meanings on the cards when you're looking at them, this deck is extremely good because it's on the face of the cards. There's the five of cups is this place sucks. I mean, you know, they're that kind of thing. So I really, really like that deck. This is another deck. I used to use this one a lot when I worked in a vintage clothing store that was full of a lot of 1950s kitsch. And this is called the Housewives deck. And it's Housewives Tarot. Comes in a little recipe box. And it is just perfect for that. And it's the images of the 50s we all grew up with. And this is a woman, I don't know how many of you had family that had family china and you had the china you brought out for the special occasions. And that was a real controlled time when everybody had to sit there and be nice because the china was out. So that's kind of that one. And then this is another one. A lot of times people don't understand about death, and this was the death card in this deck, and it's a jar of salmonella mayonnaise. So it's just it's out there waiting for you guys. And then I also, since I work with crystals a lot, I have a couple decks that use crystals. And the 4 coins, in this case 4 coins, is blue tourmaline. And blue tourmaline is really interesting when you're talking about the 4 coins, because blue tourmaline sends you a message of peace. It tries to balance mind and spirit, teaching us to achieve harmony in all our circumstances. It promotes inner perspective so that we can easily improve our nature and our desires. In other words, it stops us from holding on. Now, this comes with a really good little white book. If you guys have never seen this, and you can actually read this one, unlike many little white books. But the tarot interpretation of this is greed, power, uneasiness, rigidity, and usury, the accumulation of wealth, and the need to change character. And if you want to find a stone to do that, blue tourmaline is a perfect stone to do that. So that's kind of the card I picked and the decks I picked that I think show very different kinds of graphics you can get involved with. Yay! No echo. We made it.
Yeah, all right. Thank you, NancyJean. So I have so what I showed you guys with NancyJean had the 4 of Pentacles out here. So this is traditionally, you look at that and that's the miser card. They're holding on for dear life. I mean, look, he's standing on his pentacles. He's holding it. He has one on his head. And it's interesting, the different images, because this clearly looks like a miser, and you can see all of his castles and holdings in the background there. But then when you look at this deck, right, so this is the Wandering Star. This does have all the meanings on here. But if you looked at this, it looks like this person is super happy that they've got all this money. They're holding all these pentacles and they're delighted. So, if you were doing a reading for someone and just looking at this, if this is the card that came up right there, that would kind of change the entire energy, as opposed to I'm the miser. And this is very similar to the guy that Nancy first showed you, where in order for him to get into the room, he needed the key, but he had to loosen his grip on his resources in order to be able to do that. And this card on here says stability, savings, foundation, securities. So this isn't really saying a miser. This is saying this is a very good Taurus card. Would you agree, NancyJean? Thumbs up with all the security and the stability. And Taurus can be a miser, can say, they can be a little on the cheapy side. I'm Taurus rising, so I can say that. But it's so interesting how the cards are so different. And then this 4 of Trees is 4 of Pentacles, and it says growth. So, and the way you, I guess, would grow your wealth is you have to hold on to it and be that miser. Okay. And look at Bowie's Starman. Look at that 4 of Pentacles. That's crazy. Anyway, all right. Thank you, NancyJean. I hope you guys don't mind me adding more commentary and all these. I pulled all your cards out. So, all right. So Colleen is going to do the Star is my favorite card, and the Magician, and then Colleen's card, unless she changed her mind.
Okay, I'm doing the 6 of Wands, and this is the one that I'm showing you is from the what is it? Pulp Fiction? Is that what it's called? The Pulp Fiction deck. Um, so it's one of the happier cards in this deck. And I always think of this card because some readers see it as in the Rider-Waite version, some people see it as the victory card, and some people see it as not so much. They think that, the horse doesn't look very happy, the people in the back don't look so great, so maybe it's not so much victory, but like, yeah, we got to cheer this guy on, the battle's won, but we're not too happy about him. Very interesting that in this time that we are living in, that some people are seeing that card like that, when for many years that I've been reading tarot, it's always been victory. In this card, this is showing what happens after the victory even more. I mean, they're on a car, they're not on a horse. There's a garland on the top of every pole. There's confetti coming down. And so to us, this is a big party. So clearly this is victory and happiness, and we won, and everybody who's feeling like they're a part of this card is feeling like they won. And I think it's very interesting that they have the very tall buildings around them and American flags on the car, because it really looks like that, Canyon of Heroes that we used to always have a big ticker tape parade for the World Series winners and that kind of stuff. And we did it for the Knicks when they won. And I think that's just interesting imagery on this card. Really Americana. And a lot of this deck is very much like that. The Pulp Fiction deck takes its cue from the covers of the Pulp Fiction novels that had a very distinctive kind of cartoonesque quality about them, but usually the topics were very dark on the covers of these books. But the artwork is what the illustrator of these cards really drew from in their imagery. The next deck that I pulled from for the Six of Wands is a deck that I've used for in the background. The sky is very yellow and peach, but there's a sun, and so no blues, hardly any greens. It's very sunny. The whole wand suite in this deck is very fire oriented. Wands usually do represent fire signs, and this deck is no different from that. But I just think it's a calm card. It's not the joyous and boisterous celebration of victory that you have in the Rider-Waite or even in the Pulp Fiction deck, right? It's just, loud, celebration, joyous. This one he's victorious, all right, but he is fairly serious, not boisterous. So there's victory, but it's just like, she's like, yep, we won. Now we have to get to the business of handling things since we, quelled the uprising or whatever they did. And this deck is just so interesting. It has a phrase under it. It says, Sci-Fi Tarot. On almost every card in this deck, they find a way to put the name of the deck, Sci-Fi Tarot, which I think is hilarious. And then it says Suit of Wands. And then underneath that, which you won't be able to see these letters on camera because it's way too small, but it says card number 6, Ascendance. I'm wondering if this is something too. Hold on a second. I have to put my glasses on. I never noticed this before. In teeny weeny letters going up the side, it says Sci-Fi Tarot, 6 of Wand, $1.25. The people who wrote this deck is just hilarious. If it's, can you see real? It's that little bit of white going across there. But I don't know. It's a funny deck, but Ascendance, I think that's true. I mean, the person who wins, the person who has quelled the uprising, definitely is ascending to something, leadership or, some sort of glory or something. So I just thought these 3 decks were just so extraordinarily different in their representation of the Six of Wands. So you definitely would get a different feeling from it. Now, if you're reading intuitively, and I think most of us do, you may come to a very similar reading with each of these if they came up in a reading. Obviously, it would just be whatever's coming to you. But from these images, you'd get a slightly different thing. And I have to point out that in the background of her, these are people holding banners. But all of the banners and the people are in the dark. So this might be more like what people are thinking about the Rider-Waite imagery, where it might be that the people in the crowd are not as joyous and happy about her victory as she is. So I think, a lot of these decks, I think, started out making different imagery than the Rider Waite deck, almost in defiance of that deck, or to say, no, I have a better idea of how that symbolism should be represented. And I think that with this, it's kind of coming full circle that, yes, we're trying to get the same idea across, but with much different imagery, which I really like, because it just, you gotta, if you, for me, as I'm looking at imagery, like for instance, this card, I've used this deck for so long. I'm so well acquainted with the colors and the symbols and the imagery that when I look at this card, I'm not even thinking about the number of wands or that there's a lion. I'm just feeling what are those images giving to me? What are they pinging off of me? How does it make me feel? And I'm almost there with this deck. I've used this deck quite a bit, but I'm still getting there with this one. But it's I think I like getting different decks.
Read those cards reversed.
He doesn't really state one way or the other, I don't think. But hang on, if you just give me a second, I'll go grab it.
Okay, because if you show the back of that card, there are cards you cannot read reversed. And the way the authors of the deck tell you is in This is Luna Soul. Obviously, there's an up and a down to this. And when you run into decks that have obvious up and downs on the
Yeah.
back, yours, that's why I noticed on that one.
Yeah.
Because Radley Valentine, who's done a lot of decks, he does not like reversals. So he specifically designs his decks so that you know that when you look at the back of the card.
Yeah, and I kind of stopped reading reversals a few years ago for that reason. But I'll go, you guys talk amongst yourselves. I'll go grab the book.
Okay.
Sherry, do you want to talk about reversals on that Knight of Cups? And if you read reversals and how the Knight of Cups reversed would come up. If you want to talk about that, then NancyJean will talk about your Four of Pentacles next. Sherry, whenever you're ready.
Let me get my book back open here. Now, when it comes to the light seers, the thing that I really liked about this card when I started looking at it is the fact that it's more depicting someone who's in love with the idea of love. And so when you look at it from like the reversal side, where is that? I know it's on here. It's also, well, damn it. Normally it's marked real clearly. You know what? It doesn't even show a reversal on this card. That's wild. Oh, here it is. Never mind. I turned the page. So with this particular Knight of Cups, it's talking about missing the signs, protecting your heart, not being open to love, being more like a player than you are sincere, which kind of fits the description they were giving in the upright, was somebody that's in love with the idea of love. And so they're checking off all the boxes. They got the flowers, the wine, the candy, the strawberries, whatnot. But there's no real depth of emotion with that, with this card. Now with the Christmas one, I just love that little elf. He's so cute. It talks about trickery, artifice, subtlety, swindling, duplicity, fraud. That's what it gives for this card with the Christmas deck. And I thought, well, that kind of fits when you think about it from the viewpoint of the Christmas and the elves and, and all of that mythology, Santa Claus and blah, 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 and everything's for the good and the beauty. And if you're going to reverse that, it's going to, it's going to all be the trickery and the swindling people and defrauding folks. And we see that happen a lot at Christmas time. A lot of people get messed up like that. Now, for the Deviant Moon Tarot, and I've had the deck for a while, but I've just started kind of using it because it's a little off kilter. For the reverse, it just talks about a deceptive person, falsehood, a scam. So again, that's still phrased a little differently, but you're still basically getting that same idea. And then for the Tarot Illuminati, it doesn't give reversal meanings for these cards, which is kind of wild when you think about it. But I think to read it as a reversal, it would be someone who's, because the card itself, I mean, it shows, I don't know if y'all can see it or not, if it's going to focus, but it actually shows him holding a grail and everything to go along with that iconographically picture. And I would think that reverse of that would be someone who either is unable to finish their quest because they were not noble enough to finish that quest. That the Arthurian Knights and all of that stuff went on a lot of, if things didn't go right, it was because they weren't pure enough of heart, or they took the shortcut instead of going the long way around, where they're meant to learn lessons along the way. And so it's more like not able to learn what it is you need to learn in this kind of quest, because that's how this card is depicted, as a quest. And so it makes it always, whenever I'm in, like I said, this is a fairly new deck for me too, but I really like the artwork in it.
That deck is beautiful. Now I'm going to go out after this chat tonight. I'm going to go out and have to buy more decks. Just when I said I'm not buying any more decks.
Well, this one, that one comes in a box, and that's what it looks like. And then the what's really cool is that it comes with a big old book in it, you know.
And you read the guidebooks.
Oh, I'm definitely a guidebook reader, especially when it comes to oracle cards, because I want to know. I like to read the guidebooks because I want to know what the purpose of the author, what was their purpose when they created that deck? What was the point of them creating that particular deck? Why did they use those kind of pictures? Or
and plus you're a Gemini.
Why did they change, why did they change the meaning on some? And so to me, that's always been intriguing, so I like to read it. Now, am I going to follow what it usually says? Most of the time, no. But that's okay, but I like to read just because I want to know where the author is coming from.
And because you're a Gemini and your nose is.
And I'm a Gemini, yeah, that has a lot to do with it.
Well, the other part of reading the books, that when you've spent a lot of time developing a system for people to be able to read, it's always interesting for me to see where their head was at, what they were thinking about. And a lot of times, I'll pick, if on Sundays when I read politics, I'll use my bunny deck, and it has no little white book with it because it's a cheap deck. But bunnies can tell you the worst things, and you can take it well, And I think sometimes beautiful decks are so pretty, we get lost in the images. But the reason I started reading reversals, when I started reading cards, I was 11 or 12 at slumber parties, and I used to read from the little book just because I had no idea what. And I can still remember readings I did for people I knew back then that have come true, and what I saw, and of course I didn't understand the adult points of view behind the cards. So when you get a deck, you get the images from the cards, and you get the depth and information of the reader. So if you're getting read by an 11-year-old,
Well,
But
I was just been doing this about a year
mhm,
when I did a thing with Jeffrey. We did like a 1 hour show on one card, and we did
mhm,
the hangman. And because Jeffrey's an artist,
mhm,
he started talking about with this card, looking at the backgrounds. What are the colors? Are they, do all the cards have a mountain scene? Are they all a water scene? And just he brought out all these different artistic points that I never saw because I'm not an artist. And so it really opened my eyes up to be able to look at cards that maybe look really different,
mhm.
but then I can look at it at the picture and go, okay, this is, with this card, yeah, you can feel King Arthur and the Grail and all of that. It just reeks of that. And you look at this and you think Santa Claus and and whatnot. So uh it gives a little bit of a different feeling, just like with the light seers, you've got somebody that's come across as a player. He's just checking off all the boxes so that the girl feels wonderful.
Mhm.
And oh my God, isn't this wonderful? He's in love with me, and probably not. He's probably just in love with being the romantic guy, and
Mhm.
hopefully the girl wakes up and she goes and finds a real
A real person.
armor. So
The thing about Jeffrey is Jeffrey only reads Rider Waite. He does not have another deck.
yeah,
I sent him another deck and I've never seen it lifted near his face. And he knows, but he knows every one of those cards so well that when we teach class, we use Rider Waite because it's the foundation of everything. And then, and he does go into a lot of yellows or bright new light coming in, blues, all those color things. And then you see him in other decks. And obviously, I use a lot of different style decks. And,
yeah, me too. It just depends on what I'm drawn to.
mhm,
But when I'm doing like political readings, I use my Rider Waite,
mhm,
just the plain old fashioned Rider Waite deck. That one just seems to really focus in on a political reading
mhm,
as opposed to some of these other cards. They're wonderful to play with, and I love to do personal readings with them because it kind of opens up the possibilities of what you're telling the person,
right.
and it allows you to use your imagination a little bit more, and that's what I like about it. And I've just always been a sucker for really color saturated type cards to look at, pictures to look at. I mean, I love my pastels, but I only have a couple of those. Most of my pictures are more like in your face,
Mhm.
I like that depth of color and everything. So, you know.
Colleen, I have a question for you. There's a lot of, since you do so much astrology, there's a lot of people that try to relate tarot cards to astrology. Do you do that when you read?
Colleen, you're muted.
Well, it would help if I unmuted if I'm going to talk, wouldn't it? Jeez, you'd think I'd know this being on YouTube a bit. Um, yeah, when I'm reading and I see the symbols that definitely relate to the maybe the time of year of a sun sign or symbols of particular signs or things that remind me of the planets, I'll definitely bring that in. And I do have one of my decks that is a very much a Rider Waite style deck, but I can't remember what it is. The colors are different, and it's called something Rider Waite. No, no, not that one, but that's a good one. Um, it's I bought it along with a book that I bought by this one woman who's also does astrology tarot, and she's like, this is the astrological symbolism in this card, and she'll give you probably a sign and a planet for each card. And I very studiously wrote with my little marker the symbols for everything on each card. But that doesn't always ring true for me. I get more than that out of it or different things out of it. So I do relate very much to the astrological vibe of things. with people, with images, with colors, with the moon, with the planets, the sun, the color of the sky, the land, the all that stuff. I do. Yeah, that's the short answer. I do. Yeah. I did get the book though, and I have to correct myself. I I could have sworn that his name had a E with after the O, but it's not. It's just L-O with an umlaut over it, S-C-H-E. Lush. And the book that I have is written by Jean, I'm going to mispronounce it, Hewitts. And you're right, NancyJean, they don't prescribe to reversals. So I know that when I read those cards, I just turn the cards upright if they come out reversed, because it doesn't make you don't need it. You don't need the reversals in order to make this make sense. And every card in this deck, the symbolism is so rich. Like you're not lacking for anything to get a little hit off of what it's supposed to be.
Okay, thank you. I'm just going to revert back to Shari. Um, because this card, well, first of all, what deck this is, and I like weirder the better. So this is the David Bowie. This is the remastered Starman Tarot. And I am not a guidebook person. I'm just not. But I got this deck because of the imagery on the guidebook. But let me show you this image of the Knight of Cups. And what I want to call to your attention, can you see how he is reaching for the chalice, but the chalice is sitting on top of two skulls? And this reminds me a lot of Indiana Jones, and how, everybody was reaching for that golden chalice. And it's like what this card is saying is this Knight of Cups is reaching for love, but that doesn't mean that doesn't have a double-edged sword, so to speak, with those two skulls. And he's kind of on a slippery slope here, as I would say. But that is, I mean, can you guys see that?
Does he have on clothes? Because to me it looks like a naked butt.
Well, he is dressed in psychedelic attire. We're going to say that he's wearing Lululemon. But I could show you a card that's
Probably a
very
skin
questionable
suit.
if you want to see one.
That was real popular back in the 60s and 70s, those skin suits that a lot of performers wore.
Yeah, yeah. But I just, as you were talking, I'm pulling out all the cards that you guys are and just adding a little additional commentary. I hope that's okay with you. But the reversal in here, and it does in this book, and I, for a while, thought I don't read reversals, but I'm going to be the weirdo in the group. And I'm going to say I read reversals in that if the cards come out upside down when I lay them down, I feel like there's a reason. This is just me. There's a reason they're upside down, and often, there's two sides to every tarot card. One is a good side, and like the bright side, and then there's a shadow side. Because you could have like the Knight of Cups here, what we're talking about, and he's Lance romance, and he's sweet, and he's a water sign, and I always bring astrology in. So just like you, Colleen. But you have water energy here, a youthful man that's obviously has his elixir potion going on here. So with all that, that could mean that, he kind of jumps in and woos you, but it doesn't go anywhere. So if this came out upside down in a reading, I would say you better be careful of this person that is courting you so heavily, because he looks good on the outside and he's really in love with being in love, and that doesn't mean it's going to go anywhere, so just be careful. But in this book it talks about the reversal, and it's pretty short, so I'm just going to quickly read it to you. It says you may be experiencing some forms of emotional confusion and turbulence, seesawing between tremendous hope and delight one minute, and abject despair and disappointment the next. And this suggests your imagination may be getting the better of you, and it would be advisable to take stock of your situation and regroup. So, I mean, that would be what along the lines of saying, hey, you might be getting a little bit hot and heavy here. And, you know, so that's why I would read a reversal. It kind of is the exact opposite of what the card would mean in a good way, if that makes any sense at all to anybody.
You know, see, I was like, all my cards are in one direction. And so if something pops out and it's reversed, I think, okay, there's a reason Spirit wants the reversed red with that. But when you were talking about the water, and I went back and looked through all of these, and all these other cards have like maybe a little stream or something in the background, nothing major.
Mm-hmm.
But our Arthurian card is in front of a waterfall. That's like massive water coming down, symbolizing part of that quest of you're going through, you're having to traverse through this waterfall and this raging water all around them at the bottom. It's like, you know, it's like a going through the White Rapids or something. So that to me seems again, this kind of holds a little bit clearer to that Arthurian scale, is because it's giving that really iconic kind of forceful picture, you know, that it's do or die. It's how it's coming across. Not like we're just out for a hot date tonight. Hopefully we'll get lucky. This one is like declaring love over death, and you know, and will traverse till the end of time for you, and that kind of thing, you know. So that's kind of what the Tarot Illuminati cards come across to me as. It's the very
So, Sherry, thanks for bringing the water up. If you look at this card, it looks like he's standing, then there's a waterfall behind him. You know, now that you're, and you know, the thing with all these images, and when you start doing your own tarot deck like I'm doing, that imagery, Rider Waite, is so detailed, so deep, has so many meanings. And I'm going through, you know, I'm on like I still have like 44 cards left to do, because they're so detailed. And then, you know, I put a dove on one and I'm like, oh my God, it was an ibis. It wasn't a dove. It's supposed to be red. I don't care if the white looks good. It's the wrong bird. And then you have to go back in and change it. So the images are a really big deal. NancyJean, do you want to talk about the reverse meaning or the downside of the Four of Pentacles for us?
Four of Pentacles, that's not a downside. You're letting go. You're letting go of the stuff. If it's reversed, it means, yeah, you're going to put those coins down. You're going to walk through the door. If it's this deck, if it's the one that's based on the Monopoly deck, you're not holding tight. You're going to let go. I mean, that's a good thing. That's a good thing. And I don't know how y'all can deal out cards and have them all come up right. I just, that's the other reason I read reverses. It's way too much trouble to get all those cards arranged the right way. Here's my Knight of Cups in the Housewives Tarot. There he is in his slick suit and his bottle of champagne. There's a sweet little thing in the back with the roses and the prom dress. Just saying, there's a lot of similarities in all these things, but they all have different meanings, and that's why when you get into what people might think is a very abstract deck, like the crystals deck, because the meanings are so close, if you understand tarot and you want to learn about crystals, this is a great deck to work with, because the images of the crystals that are on here have meaning. Like the Magician is Herkimer diamonds. If you don't know what Herkimer diamonds are, they come from Herkimer, New York, and they're the purest quartz that we have in this country. It's actually the purest quartz in the world. And It's absolutely clear crystal, just like a magician. And so if people always say to me, well, how do you learn about crystals? Well, I just brought them into all of the ways that I think about things and all of the world that's around me. And you can start to see how that relates to the tarot, it relates to the astrology, it relates to all the good stuff that's happening around us, that, or the bad stuff, depending on what you need protection from. But that's kind of what my reverses are not negative. The sun right side up or upside down, the sun is the sun. It's too bright. We can't diminish it. So, it, and when I teach people how to read, I tell them, you do what you think is right. I don't make people read reverses because I do. And I actually had one reader, who shall remain nameless, and I will not mention what sex the person was. But this particular person said to me, that's a whole lot of trouble to learn all those second meanings. I'm like, really? Okay.
This Four of Pentacles card from the Bowie deck, I'm just going to call it the Bowie deck. This right here reminds me of our vile person in office. So if you look at this, it's almost like when I looked at it at first, I got the immediate thing of that this person is really a hoarder and a narcissist, and look at all the gold I have, and look at how much I have, and you have none, and I don't care. And it's just a really super interesting. And if I use this deck and if I'm doing politics and this comes up, this is going to be the representation of him, in my opinion, after looking at this. I don't know. That's just kind of what I felt about that. So
The basics of that card is greed and avarice.
yeah.
But it's
Here it
also,
is.
if you're looking at him in the Rider-Waite deck and he's holding that little coin, it's almost like he's a picture. He's taking a picture of everything around him and trying to control it. I think it's an interesting
Beginning
image.
of the selfie.
Uh-huh.
Mary Ann Flaherty had a question. She said, if you shuffle with all the cards facing one direction, how do they get reversed? That is a question for the cosmos. I cannot explain it. I have gone through decks, made sure every card's in the same direction, and shuffled them up, and I'd be damned if one of them will pop up upside down. And when it first happened to me, I was like, how is that possible? They were all in the same direction. All I can come up with is because whatever meaning is associated with that reverse card is important enough that spirit is saying, pay attention to this. There's a specific reason for this. And so that's how I take it now. It's like, okay, if it's upside down, it's upside down. And then I know every day on my lunch break, I do my little lunch break musings, a little quick political readings, like 10 minutes long or so. And I've started doing a Wednesday's upside down day where I turn all the cards reversed. And so every card I pull is a reversed card. And it's just hilarious what cards will show up when I draw them, because not all reverse cards are bad. Sometimes the reversal is a better reading than the upright is. And, but then again, I am not afraid to pull out my cheat sheet and go, wait a minute, I don't remember that card. Let me look it up. And so,
Well, the Ten of Swords reversed, all the swords are falling out of you.
There you go.
Yay! So, and also I have some decks that have more miserable looking images. The Luna Soul deck has a lot of very interesting images. Oh, this is its Five of Swords. Now, is that not just the bloody little scenes? And this is the Three of Swords. And I have a friend who, I actually only use this deck. And I only read them right side up. And when I do past life readings, I start out with looking at where your life is now and what life's intruding on you. Then I use a pendulum to decide that's where I get dates and times and images. And then I do a 4x4 of the life that's affecting you. And that's where I use the Luna Soul deck. And it's very good for that because it's kind of sort of a timeless deck. It's not contemporary, it's not medieval, it's kind of universal all over the world. So you find certain decks have certain readings they want to be done.
Oh, without a doubt. I have specific decks that I use for specific kind of readings, and I only use them for those readings because it's like I don't want to, like when I do political readings, I don't like to use my other cards because I don't want that energy to get on them. So I have my set decks. I have like 3 or 4 decks that I use just for political reading.
I use this for any sort of business. I love, love, love this deck. I am obsessed with it. If anybody has a work question, business question, job question, but I know astrology. So for me, this tells me the cards will tell me what's going on astrologically, like the personalities behind, like if someone, their question is, I'm having a really hard time with my boss, this is going to tell me usually all the qualities of the boss. It won't say the astrological sign, but if it comes up Pluto, I'll say, well, is your boss really secretive and underhanded and, blah, blah, blah. But I do use this deck just for work related stuff. But, okay, Colleen, would you tell us why you stopped reading reversals? It's because the cards really kind of have two meanings. So you did say you don't read reversals, right? Would you share a little bit about that with the group if you wouldn't mind, please?
So, I really felt like for a while I was just a shitty tarot reader because I couldn't get the reversed meaning. I'd look at the reversals and I was just like, what's wrong with me? I just don't get from that. Why, when it's reversed, what really would be going on for this person? It just was not, when the cards were reversing, I was just not making a good connection. So I just tried keeping them all upright and I just started getting better readings. So it's not any more complicated than that. It was just my feeling with it. And I got that book out and I wanted to show you, Sabrina. This is the cover of the book is what the box is. So that's the cover of the Cosmic Tarot, and that imagery is the Magician for that deck. So
Thank you, Colleen. I think I need that deck. Well, I mean, need has nothing to do with it, but I'm just like, Sabrina, finish your own damn deck and use it, will you?
it's an
No, we
illness.
understand need is, yeah, you need that deck.
It's an illness, Sabrina, and this is the only medicine.
That I agree with you. I agree with you. And I have a couple of images that I'd like to share with Colleen's card, the Six of Wands here, because they're super interesting. So this is a adorable little deck, and it's called the Wandering Star. I got that on Hay House, and it's very kind of whimsical. But I'm going to show you the contrast between the Rider-Waite. And then this is the card. There's your owl, Sherry. This is the card that comes up with for the Six of Wands. And it's just super interesting. And then you see the owl holding all the wand branches there, wearing a crown, and just kind of there, like, yeah, I won. I think that's a snowy owl. Or the white owls, the ones that are the snowy owls. Okay. Yeah, and then on this it says victory, glory, triumph, and it's just so different. And if you didn't, really know the meanings of the Six of Wands without seeing it, this could be very confusing to a new reader, I think. But the meanings are right on here the whole way around. But and then of course Bowie's deck. This looks like they and he's in his underpants again. So look at this Six of Wands card, and I'm going to get up here as close as I can. This dude looks like he just scored at a frat party and he's on his way out. I mean, I mean, look at, isn't that what it looks like? He's got all the wands there. He's got on his tight pants, and he's like, I already got me some, and I just outdid all these other dudes in the background here. And, you know, I'm off and running.
Is that Bluto on his shoulder
that could
from
be.
Animal House?
Yes, it could be. But isn't that great? That's what this speaks to me, that, you know, and that's kind of that double meaning of the 6 of wands, which is, I know it as the victory card, and I have 8,000 planets in Capricorn, even though I'm a Sagittarius. So anything victory, anything climb the ladder of success, I'm attracted to. So I've never looked at that 6 of wands card as the false victory, but this kind of almost says, yeah, this kind of, I scored and I left the rest of you in the dust, yay me. But what good did it do? You know, that's kind of what this imagery says. So yeah, I just have a couple of interesting cards to show you all. If you just give me, does everybody have another 5 minutes? Because I didn't really give you a card yet. I was so interested in what you girls had to say. Now, this is not a favorite card of mine, so please don't think it, but it's just these other cards here were so interesting when it came out. Now, this is the 5 of cups. This is certainly not a happy card. You see the guy, his head is down. There's 2 cups behind him. He's not even looking because there is so much despair. And look at the barren landscape behind him. I mean, it's a gray day. Um, and this is the minor arcana death card. So something has transformed, something's over. He's not paying any, or he or she, he's not paying any attention to these upright cups. And what's so funny in this crazy bones deck, this antique anatomy deck, um, their 5 of cups and the elixirs is the cups. Look what's on here. It is morphine and cyanide and Fitzpatrick. And I think, you know, those are painkillers, poison, and this is their 5 of cups. So
That'll definitely get rid of the headache.
yes, it certainly would. It'll get rid of a lot of things, and you better have your affairs in order if you're sipping on this.
And it also makes sure that you'll never find the other 2 cups that are really full.
Right. And then you see on there that these 2 cups are okay, but the other 3 are either painkillers or poison. But there still is a little hope, but the hope is a little outnumbered. So, and then of course we got to do Bowie. This card is crazy. So look at what's going on here as you get in close. There's a cup down here that's just on fire, and it's just madness. It's complete, and you see the other cups falling down here. It is a really, really crazy deck. I think this would be a good deck to do tarot readings on if you're on LSD. Who knows what you'd come up with?
I was just thinking whoever designed those cards had to have been on something.
Yeah, they
Oh,
were
yeah.
not. They were not in
They-
the world with the rest of us. No.
Yeah, it's
And the other thing is about that 5 of cups. It sort of looks like the frat party before it got started.
yeah, it's kind of crazy. Then the other cards I'm just going to show you super quick, and thank you all for being here. So I happen to love the 8 of wands. Now, I am a fire sign. I love all the wands, and I'm also a lot of earth, so I love all the pentacles and money, of course. But I like the 8 of wands because I want everything yesterday. I want that energy coming in. I want the answers. I want the messages. I want to know now. I don't want to wait. So here is your Rider Waite 8 of wands. Now, typically this means there's messages coming in. Something's coming in very quickly. It could go in any direction. It could be bad news. It could be good news, but it's news. And it's usually fast moving news. And if anyone disagrees with me, feel free to pipe up and I'll mute you again. Just kidding. But in this crazy anatomy deck, this would make me edgy if I got this 8 of wands. It's like you're going to get a message that's going to skewer you. That's what this looks like to me. So if I was using that deck and I got that 8 of Wands, I would be like, I'm not so sure you're gonna enjoy this message, because these look like you're gonna get some very, very tense news. So, and it goes from this to this. I mean, they're very similar, but I would say one could be more good news and this could be something ever so slightly unfavorable. Just from the imagery on the deck, and that's what we're talking about here. Let me see if there's another one. Okay, so now this one, and this is the 8 of Wands, this says surge. So this could be a growth opportunity with this deck. This could be, you could have a surge of good news coming in, because it's, the imagery is beautiful. She's an amazing artist. But and then of course I had to get Bowie out on the scene. Now look at this 8 of Wands. This looks like sparklers at that frat party that we've already been to. And they're tossing out all the sparklers. I don't even know what to think of this. Anybody have any comments on this card? It's kind of wild.
Well, it's much more Egyptian than the other images. The other images are very collage-like, or just very almost impressionistic art. But this is very, very Egyptian. A lot of the symbols are, the shapes are pretty regular. I mean, it's not a symmetrical thing like most Egyptian images are, but the way the light images, the shape of the lights, the coloring of the lights, and the circle, and the whatever that is going up through the center, and the top image, I don't know, it feels very Egyptian to me. So I think it's very much showing whatever, that journey that you take in the night, that little death in the night, and you're going around the circle and then waking up in the morning with the sun. I mean, that's what it kind of looks like to me. So it's new stuff coming up. It's a journey of getting new stuff.
Can you see I am on. Can you see the pyramid back there?
Oh no,
And I think, yeah, there's a pyramid back there, and then look at the guy jumping for joy. So in this case,
yeah.
when I'm looking at this, and there's other people down here, when I'm looking at this, I would absolutely say, and I would almost stick my neck out and saying, you are going to get some excellent news, and it might be coming from a past life or some of your guides, or your angels are going to drop some news on you with that pyramid back there. And then you see the guy jumping for joy back there. And that's a big wand, almost like the Ace of Wands there in the
Yeah.
front.
Yeah, yeah,
And then, then there's the other 7 wands around that big wand there. But yeah, these are going to require some serious study of these cards, but they're so groovy. Yeah.
Oh, let me
Then
mute.
you can go back to the simple little 8 of Wands. Just shooting your flames up in the air. What I like about the 8 of Wands is in almost every deck, there aren't people in it. It's just the wands. It's a pure message.
That's an excellent point, NancyJean. Thank you. All right. So before we wrap this up here, we've been on a little over an hour. Does anyone have any other commentary that they would like to add in before we wrap it up? Feel free to unmute yourself.
Just that this has been a lot of fun. It's interesting seeing and learning a few different cards and then different perspectives from that.
Yeah, and it kind of maybe it'll wake people up to those decks they've had sitting at the edge of their desk that they never wanted to learn how to read. Just pick them up and read them.
Yeah, and I think, well, as we all know, certain decks speak to you and certain decks don't speak to you. So I have a whole pile of decks. I went through all my decks before I come back out here to New Mexico so I could bring some here. And the ones I use all the time, I just have 2 sets. But I'm just like, yeah, I'm not interested in this deck. And I just put a whole box of them away. But the more I'm looking at the ones I've got in front of me here, I have to readily admit, the more psychedelic they are, the more I think I like them, because I have to look to peel out the meaning, because all the tarot cards have their own standard meaning. Then if you dig deeper into the imagery, and then when I don't like to read single cards, I put everything down and I read the story. And I also read right to left. I'm a freak instead of left to right. But I'll put a couple cards down and I'm like, well, that doesn't make any sense. And then when you keep going, then it's like, oh, yeah, now I know what you're talking about. And then when you start tossing a different deck on top and clarifying it, then you get the whole picture. But, to just hold up a card and say, well, the 6 of Wands, you're going to have success in whatever you have coming up. And then, then you have the 5 of Cups. Well, no, you're not. And, you don't. That's why you can't just read a card at a time unless you're only reading one card and it's a show or whatever. So, anyone else have anything to add? I'm delighted to have you. No,
Been
you're
a
all
lot
done.
of fun.
Yeah, good. Well, thank you so
Yeah,
much for
thank you.
coming on.
Thank you
And
very much for having us. This is fun.
Nice to meet you, Colleen. I don't
Nice
think
to meet you too, NancyJean, and you, Sabrina. This is the first time I've met both of you, so thank you. I'm very, very happy to be on screen with you and meet you.
yes, well, Colleen will have to get together and bitch about the administration.
We should do that.
Okay, so I'm gonna wrap this up. Everyone in the chat, if you guys could mute, so we can ditch that echo. Um, everyone in the chat, thank you so much for being here. Moderators, thank you so much for putting all our channels in the chat. All our channels are pretty much on there. Colleen is the Cool Crone. And I hope you all found this super interesting. And there's a lot behind reading these cards, aside from getting a card that says, you're the King of Cups and you're a nice dude and you're going to rule with heart and you're sensitive. There's a lot more to it than that. And let me just tell you firsthand, it is so intense designing a tarot deck. It is so intense. And, a couple people said, what are you doing? 1 or 2 cards a week, Sabrina? And I'm like, I can sit down and do about 4 cards at a setting, and then I have to walk away because it is just that intense. But an oracle deck's easy. I mean, I whipped out my oracle deck in, well, not 15 minutes, but it was a much easier endeavor. But anyway, thank you so much, everyone in the chat. And ladies, thank you so much for being here, for your card decks, for your expertise. And I'm going to get on Amazon as soon as we're done. No, I'm not. Yes, I am. So everyone, thank you so much. And if you all would please like the videos, subscribe to our channels, comment afterwards, that all boosts the algorithms. And I'm almost there to be able to do memberships. So I would love your subscriptions and watches. That would be great. Yes, thank you. So good night, everybody. I'm going to wrap it up here. Thank you so much. And good night.